Hi, I'm Mr. Miyagi, and this is Mr. Miyagi's Workshop. And yes, I know it's been a while since I put out a video, but I'm still recovering from that little incident we had on Travels by Motorbike. And you can see that I've done quite a bit to this bike to get her back up into running condition. But today we're going to focus on one thing for sure. I'll show you some of the parts that I've replaced, but we're going to change out this tire here because this is the wrong tire. Doesn't match the front, and this was on my sidecar. I had a couple people ask me if I was going to check the trueness of the wheel that was originally on there, and we'll get to that in just a minute here, so stay tuned. Surprisingly enough, that wheel went through a heck of an accident, and by golly, it's still pretty darn true. Now, these are some of the damaged parts. Gas tank, front forks that were bent pretty good. Triple tree was bent pretty good. We took out the tack and speedo. There's the headlight housing and brackets. Over here we have the hard box that were on it. They got banged up pretty darn good. This one not so bad, but you can see on the bike that I've got a new set on there. It wasn't a big expense, but I happened to have a tank, and I had that Sportster front end, which you saw on me mounting before. I was able to save the front fender. We'll walk over there and we'll take a look at everything that I was able to save. But the rest of the stuff here, I had replacement parts for it, except for the headlight, which I had to order, which wasn't all that bad. I had to order a regular Sportster headlight, but we'll get back to that in a minute. You can see that I got new test bags. These are fairly reasonable on price, and I really like the way they protected the bike. I had to do a little straightening up on the exhaust. I just happened to have another fuel tank. A couple things I did is I replaced the speedo and went with just a speedo, not the tack. And then I was able to fix all the handlebar stuff, the mirrors. The mirrors actually lived through pretty well. It's surprising how much of this stuff actually made it. The headlight, like I said, I had to order one. And this is the Sportster. And I happen to have the bracket. And of course the triple trees and forks and stuff. I was able to straighten out this front fender, which was pretty well banged up. The ignition system, I went with a single setup. I went with a toggle, and for the headlight, turn the headlight on and off. And this operates all the electronics and everything. This just strictly the headlight and tail light stuff. You can see in the back there, when I turn that off, it turns off that. That's only the reason I had hooked it up this way, is when you're kick-starting, that all your power is going to your ignition. And, you know, or if you're using an electric start, then you got all the power going to one spot. So, and it's not being sucked up by the headlight. So what I think I'm going to do right now is I'm going to remove that front wheel off there, and I'll show you how to remove a tire. And what we'll end up doing is that we will put this tire from this wheel on that rim without puncturing the tube, hopefully. That's one of the biggest things. I can show you a couple of tricks on that. Let's get to it. I'm going to pull that wheel and we'll set it up and get it ready, and I'll show you how it's done. Okay, what you see here is a Nomar machine that I've used over the years. I'd show you how to do it by hand, but with my shoulder being all screwed up, I'll give you some techniques when I let your air out. This one's kind of nice because it does have a bead breaker on it. You have to switch to one of the other blocks. Now these machines aren't cheap. Now they're about $1,000, but I tell you what, they certainly save you a lot of time when you're doing this. I've got enough bikes and enough reason to have one of these darn things, but there. That's pretty simple. Now, when I'm on the road, I have a bead breaker that I pack with me. And it's just a simple thing that goes in and hooks and pushes the tire away. You can get this at, I believe I bought this Tusk kit from Rocky Mountain ATV. They're another good place to get motorcycle parts, gear, helmets, tires. And see, that just usually pries in there, and then you can push down. And these are the tire irons I pack with me on the road. So all you have to do is go around and walk it down. All right, so let's put it in the machine a little bit, a little bit more stable. Okay, so what we can do now is that we can strip the tire off. Like I said, one of the reasons I'm using the machine is because I got a bum shoulder, and it makes it a little easier for me to get this stuff off there. One thing too you might want to make up is a little solution of soap and water. It really helps make the tire come off. That's just in a spray bottle. You can get that anywhere. A couple of really good tire irons. For demonstration purposes, I'd kind of like to show you how, if you're on the ground, what you're kind of doing. It's basically all you're going to do is work this tire off. So very carefully work yourself away around this tire. You don't have to take really big bites. Matter of fact, it's better to take smaller bites of the tire. And if you've got it lubricated up, it should slide off fairly easy. Sometimes you got to persuade them a little bit. And what you're trying not to do is you're trying not to pinch the tube against the rim itself. Now at this stage, I like to reach in and pull my tube out. So I'm not dealing with that. And flopping it over to the side, out of the way. So now that we can get underneath here, the other side of the tire, bring that up. It never hurts to have a few tire irons. Makes it a little easier sometimes to do this. And once you get it to a certain stage, it should just pop right off. One tire. I'm going to go ahead and pull this tube. Usually these tube blocks are 12 millimeters. I'm not sure that this is the right size tube for what we're going to be putting back in. I'll check it here in a minute. I'm going to pull this rim off the table, and we're going to bring the other tire over and wheel over, excuse me, and remove the tire on that so that it can be put on this rim here. Once again, we're going to pull out, put a little flatter area because the rim's got to hit against this when you're breaking them loose. And we've got to release the air. Very important. I've been pretty impressed with these old Yamaha rims, these ridged rims. They hold up pretty damn good. Once again, we're going to break this loose. I'm going to use the machine itself. This just makes it a little easier, especially on me, being an old man with a busted up shoulder. And be pretty generous with the soap, because it really does help. I like to do it with the disc down, so it's not in my way. I'm not working around it. And no chance of me either damaging or bending the rim while prying on this. And when you're doing, I always like to put the stem away from here, from where I'm prying at. And even when you're doing that on the ground, it's a good idea, is leaving that as the last area, because you have a chance, if you do that, of pinching the tube. One thing too on these tires, if they are warm or warmed up a bit, it makes it better than this wheel here. That tire is probably at about, I don't know, 50 degrees. So it tends to be a little on the stiff side. Of course, the warmer they are, the better, the more flexible they are. Okay, here again, I'm going to reach in and pull the tube so we don't damage it. Now, if you've got an old tube that you're using, I really suggest that you buy a new tube. Now, these are fairly new tubes that I've got here. I'm going to put this one in because it's a heavy, the one that was originally on the Sportster wheel, because it's a heavier duty tube. Now, there's where the stem goes, right there. Ooh, I don't know if you can see this. That's pretty mangled up there. So I'm thinking maybe I'm going to put a new tire on. Okay, you can see I've grabbed a newer tube. This is a tusk tube. I got that through Rocky Mountain ATV, nice company. And we have our wheel here. We got to make sure the directional is right. So rotation goes this way, that wheel goes that way, so we're going to do a reverse. Now, there's usually an indicator of where you should line up with the stem, and this has a little mark here, so that's what we're going to do first. We're going to put that closest to the stem, and then we're very carefully going to stuff this tube in there and get it down. Now, if it was warm and hot, sometimes I've got them just, these tires will just slip right on, but since it's maybe 50 degrees outside and maybe 50 in this shop, I'm going to use the irons. We'll just pop down, there you go, it's on. Okay, so next we want to get this tube stuffed in there. Take your time, don't get in a hurry. Now, one other thing I like to do when you're at this stage, first thing, get the tube lined up. Make sure your stem is straight, make sure you're lined up with your, I like to fill tube up with air and make sure we got all the wrinkles out of her. That way it goes together a little bit easier. Another thing that I have, another little fancy little tool, it helps me out a little bit, and that's a rim lock. All that does is just kind of hold the tire in place. And just kind of work both sides, and not to go too far. I don't like to go over 90 because you could dig into, if you were to pry this in, your tube could be laying in here and you could puncture it, and that's not good. So you just kind of want to do, just walk it around. Here again, don't get in a hurry. Make sure your tube is in the rim of it is in the center of the rim. And what I'm talking about there is this little edge here. You want this edge, you want it in the center there so that it will go on a lot easier. You won't be fighting it as much. And what we have here. And then you just easily walk around on it. Boom. Good to go. So my next stage is to make sure that all this is lined up. Point, point. Now we're gonna fill it, but first I have to release it off the stand. I've done that before, and it just blows them right off the stand there, and it's not much fun. We're just making sure that the rim and the tire's gone all the way out and seated on the rim. And one of the reasons I put a new tube in, I had it, and I didn't want to deal with a flat. Now I usually run these at first right around 30 pounds. Normally on these XS650s, I think it's around 26 to 28 pounds. Don't quote me on it. I don't have my book here handy to look at the reference, but that's usually what I do. I'm going to tighten down the tube lock. Be very careful when tightening these down. I've seen guys actually literally break these stems in half, and then they had to get a whole new tube due to the fact that they've tightened it down way, way too tight. So basically all you're going to do is you're just going to bring that down so it's snug. Good to go. And we'll grab an axle and we will balance the wheels. Okay, so now that we've got the new tire on the rim and the old weight stripped off, we need to rebalance this tire. Now, you can do a spin balance, you can do all sorts of things, but I'm old school. I like the static balance. So basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to find the spot, the heaviest part of the wheel, which would be the lower part. So what I've done here is I've sat down and kind of played with this a little bit, and we're going to stop, see where it sits. Okay, so this is the very top. So this is the lightest point on the wheel. So what we want to do, I've got these push-on style, the spoke style. We're going to put those on. And we'll rock it over to 90 degrees. And if it comes back, that means we need more weight. So as slow as it's moving, I'm thinking I'm not going to need a whole heck of a lot of weight. So on the other side of that, I'm going to put another one. And basically all I'm doing is I'm just pushing them up. I got that on there right? Nope. I'm just pushing them on there just to get a feel, and I'll set them later once I make sure everything is set on this. So we're going to start it at 90. and it's still wanting to rock over. So I've got another light one here. Now this came off this wheel originally, so I'm thinking that it was fairly, all right. So set it at 90. Pretty much not going to move. We'll rock it back over to 90. Pretty stable. 180 degrees. I would say that that's pretty darn close right there for balancing. Another thing you can use these stick-on weights. You can buy these on eBay or go to your local car place and pick them up. They just stick onto the rim. I use a little acetone to clean the rim off to make sure everything is good to go. Well, front wheel's on, looking pretty good. Little adjustments here and there to do. One thing I might bring up is that this is the drive for the Speedo on an XS650. And I'm using an XS650 Speedo, but I'm using the drive for the Harley on it. Now this is a 2-to-1 drive, and guess what? So is the XS650. So everything should work out fine on there, being it's a 19-inch wheel and should be darn close on the setup and everything. So anyway, I hope this has entertained you. I hope you have learned something. I'm going to try to get more videos out here a little sooner than I have been getting them out. I apologize again. I'm old. I'm forgetful. No. But I will try to get out some more videos. I may end up having a new project here. May end up picking up another XS650 to work on. Now, the motor that we built a while back, I found a home for it, and I found I believe it was around an 81 XS that I may pick up. Don't know yet for sure, but we'll see how it goes. If we do that, then I'll definitely do a build setup on that one, and I'm not sure what we'll do. But well, we went over balancing the wheels. We went over the parts that I replaced on this old beast. I'm going to do one here when we actually fire it up and do a run. It's funny, it sat for a while and I had some fuel in it. This one, both tanks are empty on this now, but I actually got it to start in 3 kicks, which was kind of nice. But anywho, so like I said, if you like these videos, please like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that little ringy-dingy button for the next crazy episode that Mr. Miyagi is going to be probably doing. So anyway, y'all take care. You be safe out there. And see you on the flip side.